Good afternoon. Time to bring you some info and content. For those of you who've been listening to me for a while, know that I love to use examples that come up in my client sessions for these videos because it just means that there are people out there have the same questions or the same thoughts around certain things. And what came up in this week or in the past few days, I had a conversation with a client and we ended up discussing or untangling the whole thing around emotions and feelings and what's the difference between emotions and feelings. And I thought what I would do is I would bring that information to you guys as well and just sit with that for the next few days, even apply to some of the experiences that you've recently had and see what comes up for you with regards to that. So, for the most part, we use feelings and emotions, these two words, interchangeably, and I do that in my own practice as well. But they are not the same thing. They're really not the same thing. So if you think about, again, if you've done some of my workshops, you will know this is sort of what my whole business model or my what I use is based on. When you have a particular thought or an event happens, or let's talk about events. You have a particular event that happens. In order for you to have a certain emotion, you have to interpret that event. You have to add meaning to that. So if your dog dies, you have to attach a meaning of maybe something has left you, you lost something huge. You have to attach meaning to that, right? In order for you to feel what we would say sad. But here's what's happening, and this is the difference between emotions and feelings. Your dog dies, it triggers a chemical response in your body. You attach meaning to it. Now, I mean, this happens extremely fast. It's not something that's going to happen over days. This is like boom, 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 boom. This happens in your brain. So your dog dies, you attach a meaning to it, and your body physically has a chemical response, and you feel in your body. You feel sad. Like, when you feel, it's almost like somebody has stabbed you in the chest, sad. Let's say it's that type of sad. But you feel that physical, and that's what we call emotion in the body. Now you interpret that emotion as a particular feeling, which is sadness. So that's the big difference between emotion and feeling. And I often say that it's physiologically impossible for anybody to make you feel, or an event, and anybody, which essentially is an event, but for an event in your life to make you feel something, it's impossible. Because here's why. Something happens, you interpret it a certain way, and you give meaning to it based on the meaning you have given it. You will now experience a physical reaction in your body, or your emotion, which is your emotion. These are all chemical responses of neurotransmitters and hormones that's happening in your body. You interpret that, all of those changes. Maybe you feel nervous, maybe your heart starts racing, let me put it that way, which is a physical response. And you interpret that as you feel scared, and that now you say, like, you feel anxious, right? Where was I going with this? I cannot even remember where I was going with this example. Something that somebody cannot make you feel something, or an event cannot make you feel something. So you interpret it, you have your emotion, you give meaning to it, similar to sort of interpretation. You have your emotion physically, you interpret that emotion, you attach a feeling to it. All right. the manner in which you give a meaning to that event or how you interpret that event is dependent on all of your experiences that you have had throughout your life from the day even before you were born. But since birth, all of the people that had an influence on your life, all of the people that have sowed or taken away from you in your life, events, experiences, things that have happened to you. And there's a whole session within that in itself. And based upon how you have stored information in your brain and in your mind related to all of these events that have happened to you, it's almost like that's the type of lens you will see life through. And based on that lens you see life through, it creates a certain emotion in your body or a response in your body. You interpret it a certain way. So it's exactly the same way as if when you have these yellow tinted glasses and you put the yellow tinted glasses on and everything out looks yellow. Then you put blue tinted glasses on. Like I'm talking about the cheap stuff, not the sciencey stuff. And you put blue tinted glasses on, and when you look at everything, it's blue. It works exactly the same way in terms of how you interpret an event and the meaning that you attach to that event. On top of that, you have what we call the reticular activation system. It sits here at in the base of your brain. It's like a nerve ball, a bunch of nerve cells. And what your reticular activation system does is it scans your environment to check for any evidence that what you are telling yourself is in fact true. It's not going to look for evidence to show you are wrong. It's always going to look for evidence to validate that the story that you are telling yourself is true and correct, that you are correct. And that's its work. So a good example I use always is that if you oversleep the morning, and all of us have probably gone through this, you oversleep the morning, your morning is a total mess. You spill your coffee, you spill your breakfast. It's just everything, it's the one thing on top of the other. That's exactly why it happens. The first thing happened, you didn't wake up, you wake up in this, everything is, it's like your whole mind is convoluted, and you jump out of bed, right? And the first thing that comes into your mind is, oh gosh, now my whole day is going to be a mess. Those are the types of thoughts we think, and we know everything nothing is going to work out today because my day has started like this. So the moment you tell yourself the story of nothing is going to work out today, your brain kicks into action, your nervous system kicks into action, and now it will just scan. It will really does do what your mind thinks it wants. It's going to scan your environment to validate that the story that you're telling yourself, that your entire day is going to be a mess, is in fact true. And that's why it happens. And so this is why we say that it's physically impossible for an event to make you feel a certain way. I so often hear people, and even especially when I work with teenagers, as they grow and go through all of these emotions that they have, they would say that they feel a certain way. Their whole life is based on they feel a certain way. They feel threatened. They feel anxious all the time. They feel things all the time. And then what we do is we unpack the lens they see life through, and we just give them a different lens to see life through, which is a fairly easy process to change that. And a lot of people struggle with that because they think it's this massive process you have to go through, and in fact there are people that spend years and years trying to get rid of, let's say, a feeling of unworthiness, or a feeling of judgmentalness, or a feeling of I'm not good enough, whatever the feeling might be, spent years to try and uncover what caused it. But that doesn't really matter what caused it, and how you have created that lens and build up that lens through which you see life. That doesn't really matter. And if you really want to understand it, you can figure it out and find out where it comes from. But we just like to work with an individual's nervous system and give them a new lens to see life through, and it changes everything. It changes the picture. It changes even once it changes what you see, it changes the meaning you give to things in life, and then it changes the emotion, and it changes how you feel and how you interpret the emotion that comes from that. So I hope that was useful. Now, how can you practice this? Interestingly enough, I'm doing currently an online workshop, and we are sort of about just finished this similar topic. So what you want to do is you're going to have to practice your mind to get into that process of just almost like go on autopilot when you get into a situation. And you don't have to figure things out to get yourself to a place to think differently about something and to feel better about something. But it takes practice to get there. So any habit, how you form a habit is you do something over and over and over and over in the shortest period of time, so that it becomes something that you can almost do in your sleep. And behavior changes, which include things like changing your emotions, changing your feelings and stuff like that, works exactly the same. There's no way around it. So if you had an event recently where you know for a fact that the emotions, first of all, that you felt you didn't like, let's say you had your palms were sweaty and your heart was racing, you didn't like that emotion, which then contributed to how you interpreted that emotion as a feeling of maybe anxiousness, and you didn't like that. So let's say you have a scenario of that. Ask yourself, and it could be in the event. We always talk about activating event. In other words, something has happened that triggers everything. So in that activating event, an easy technique or something that you can use to see things from a different perspective, which will help you to attach different meaning to it and cascade everything down. But we want to start at the top, right? And fix things first at the top. Is to do what we would call a positional evaluation, where let's say you and your spouse had a fight, where you literally put yourself in your spouse's shoes. So you can start off by evaluating how you have experienced the event. Then you literally step out of, and this is nothing mystical or something. It's like close your eyes and imagine you're stepping into your spouse's shoes. You're not gonna there's some weird stuff that's gonna happen. It's like imagination. That's why kids are so great in when they embrace imagination. They play pretend games. They do great in their pretend games. They're the hero in pretend games. But we unlearn that as we grow older. But anyway, so put yourself in your spouse's shoes and look at yourself from your spouse's point of view and see the situation and evaluate the situation, the fight, whatever it might be, words that have been said from your spouse's point of view. But it's important that you see yourself in front of you. It's almost like, I've used the same analogy, like if you open the cupboard, or if you look in the mirror, it's also an easy example. What would you see if that person that is fighting with you now stares back at you in the mirror? What are you seeing? And see that from let's say your example spouse's perspective. Then the third thing you want to do is be the fly on the wall. Like if you had to imagine you are looking down on these two people that are fighting, or there's this experience or event taking place and you're looking down on these two individuals, what are you seeing? And you really have to sit with that, because it's easy to get overwhelmed with your own emotions in terms of and be clouded with your own emotions, so that you don't really see it from your spouse's perspective, or from what we would call a third person's perspective. But you want to go through that exercise, see it from the other person's perspective, see it from the third person's perspective. And we are the only species that can see things from a different perspective, or different angles, or whatever you want to call it. And that the moment you have amazing stuff, the moment you have options, it makes you less fearful. It opens up the whole world to you. So many times when we are in an event, or feel a certain way, or have a certain experience, we only focus on that one thing, and it literally shuts down everything around you, and it's very hard for you to see the different perspectives from whether it's other people, or maybe different options of a solution or a problem. But the moment you start to practice looking for those different alternatives, it doesn't mean those are the alternative. Let's go back to the example of being in a fight. It doesn't mean somebody's right or wrong. That's not the point of trying to figure out who's right and wrong. What you are trying to understand is, what did they see and what did they feel in the conversation? What did I feel and what did I understood in the conversation? And then you have this third person, almost like a jury or a judge. Well, not a judge, but this third party. What did they see and understood about this conversation, which will open up options for you. It gives you different perspective on one single scenario. So that's the place where you want to start, and you really want to practice that every single day. You want to take a scenario. If you found yourself, if you're especially a person that get bogged down immediately into this big thing that's in front of you, and you feel like you're trapped and you have no option, I really want to urge you to sit down for 5 minutes, go through this exercise, and write it down if you need to. Write the answers that you come to down if you need to. Do this exercise, and then that will help you to work on the triggers or the emotions, and how you interpret your emotions, and tie that to a particular feeling. That will help you then eventually to work on that. So yes, I think what I'm going to do is we are almost in the last month of the workshop that I'm presenting. We have two or three live sessions left. I'm going to invite you to come and join one of those sessions, but I will only post that link in the Facebook group. I'm not going to make it public. Obviously, people have paid for this 3-month course, so I don't want to open it for the entire public. It would be unfair to the people that have paid, but in the Facebook group, I will post the link where you can join, a Zoom link. You can click on it and just join. We will meet this coming Monday at 6 o'clock South African time. And come and join us and participate in the exercises that we are doing, so that you can take something from it and go and practice at home. That's the whole idea, that you really want to. Don't just listen to the video that I'm doing, and don't just listen to the stuff, but take take the information, go and practice it. It's going to take you 5 minutes really, and if you practice it over and over and over, you're going to get yourself to a point, and help to get yourself to a point where you don't have to think about these things the moment you almost get into a situation where you see there could potentially be conflict, or there was conflict in the moment. But that's where you will be able then to detach yourself from the emotions that are involved, and then again the feelings that cascade out from that. I hope this was useful. I should stop ranting on. I will see you guys around in the group as well, so go and join there. I share some additional information sometimes there. But thanks for chatting with me. If you go and practice it, leave us a comment and see how it's going. If you have questions around the exercise or the protocol, also come back and ask questions, so that I can help you through that. I'll speak to you guys again. Bye.